In Venezuela, during the 25th ALBA-TCP Political Council, participants rejected the constant aggressions of the United States government against the missions of Cuban doctors and Petrocaribe. In Myanmar, death toll rises to more than 1,000 after 7.7 magnitude earthquake shook the center of the country on Friday. And the Palestinian Resistance Commission warns that Israel has confiscated more than 52,000 hectares in the occupied West Bank. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, during the 25th ALBA-TCP Political Council, participants rejected the constant aggressions of the United States government against the missions of Cuban doctors and Petrocaribe. During the event, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil rejected the aggressions promoted by the Secretary of State of the United States, Marco Rubio, against the cooperation of Cuban doctors and the Petrocaribe initiative, both of which have been beneficial for the development of the region. Gil also urged to progress in the strategic lines identified by the leaders who participated in the last presidential summit held on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the founding of the organization. For his part, the Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez rejected the increasing unilateral coercive measures of Washington against the Caribbean island and several countries of the region. President Nicolás Maduro rejected the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the Trump administration against the Venezuelan productive system, condemning that these actions were requested by the Venezuelan extreme right wing. During the installation of the National Economic Council, President made a call to confront the economic war announcement promoted by the government of the United States and the Venezuelan extreme right wing. He also stated that Venezuelan migrants are victims of the sanctions and the economic war that forced them to emigrate. In this context, the Venezuelan head of state reiterated that in spite of the sanctions and the economic blockade, the Venezuelan people have achieved in the first quarter of the year an economic growth of 4.5% in the gross domestic product.
In its opportunity, the criminal economic sanctions condemned by the entire Venezuelan public opinion were carefully requested by a few unspeakable individuals who have pretended and believed that by causing economic harm and consequently causing social harm to their country, our country, which belongs to all Venezuelans, they are going to have a bed of roses to reach political power in Venezuela and become the saviors in some cases of national history. Since the history we have lived through has shown that it is a crime against an entire country, against an entire society to have requested or supported sanctions against the economy and the healthy functioning of the national productive mechanism.
Also, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, condemned the violation of human rights suffered by the Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador.
Venezuelan migrants are doubly victims. In Venezuela, we're victims of the sanctions and the economic war that forced them to migrate as economic migrants. And now, they're victims of an embarrassment by pretending to qualify them as members of a gang of murderers, the Tren de Aragua criminal group that was defeated in our country, and pretending to qualify, as the Nazis did with the Jews, all Venezuelan migration as a migration of criminals. This is not a migration of criminals. I come out in defense of Venezuelan migrants. It is an economic migration of decent, productive working people.
Decente, trabajadora, productiva.
In El Salvador, Cristo Sal, a 25-year-old human rights organization, has issued a report deeming the deportation of Venezuelans from the United States to prisons in El Salvador as illegal. Moreover, they say the refusal by the administration of President Nayib Bukele to disclose the identity of the said prisoners is a violation of human rights, according to international law, which tantamounts to a forced disappearance or kidnap. They argue that no person can be arrested in anonymity, for it is a violation of basic rights, like communicating with relatives and lawyers or receiving visitors while in prison. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back. Myanmar authorities reported that the death toll after the 7.7 magnitude earthquake exceeded 1,000 people. Authorities confirmed that the number of people injured is estimated to be over 3,000 in the Mandalay region, while in the towns of Sagaing and Kyakuse, at least 300 people have been reported missing under the rubble. The authorities also declared a state of emergency in the regions of Sagaing, Magway, Shang, among others, for being the most affected by the disaster. Meanwhile, search and rescue efforts continue for those missing due to the collapse of buildings and cracks in the ground.
The death toll will increase. In some places, buildings collapsed and rescue operations continue. I also went and checked. I would like to request our people to support and help us, as we need to provide rescue operations widely. I have declared a state of emergency in all affected regions and opened all assistance from other countries. Recently, there have been emergency aid from the AHA Center, ASEAN Coordination Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management. And I allowed India to send aid to us. I would like to invite every organization, every people to provide aid. Thank you.
The governments of China and India sent emergency humanitarian aid to Myanmar after the earthquake that shook the country on Friday. The government of China allocated at least $14 million in aid, rescue equipment, emergency supplies, food, and drinking water. Likewise, the Chinese Red Cross sent an initial batch of aid, including tents, sleeping blankets, folding beds, and assistance packages for at least 2,000 affected families. For its part, the government of India sent its first batch of 15 tons of aid, which included rescue materials, tents, food, hygiene kits, and essential medicines, as well as medical equipment. The authorities of these countries indicated that they will continue to send additional supplies to attend to the damage caused by the catastrophe. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has sent his condolences to the families and people of Myanmar for the earthquake that hit the nation on Friday, March 28th. The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations confirmed that about 120 rescue workers have been sent to the southeast nation. According to an official report, the Russian team includes personnel from the airborne unit, medical staff, and canine teams who are collaborating with Myanmar authorities on rescue operations in their country. In other news, in Bolivia, the Ministry of Health launched a campaign aimed at facilitating the diagnosis of cervical cancer, the most common type of cancer in the country, using molecular technology. The aim is to detect the curable disease in time. Our correspondent Freddy Morales tells us the details.
To the permanent campaign aimed at early detection of cervical cancer, the Bolivian government has added molecular technology that allows two diagnoses, called co-testing, to be performed in a single session.
The sample collection is unique and allows us to perform the diagnosis with both tests in order not to inconvenience our patients and, especially, to give them the security of only taking the sample on a single occasion. With this reality, co-testing is practically accessible to all women.
With the incorporation of new technology, it is hoped that women will be more confident in coming forward for the tests, which are recommended to be performed once a year.
We only took the sample for the pap smear by looking at the cytology, the cellular characteristics that we could see in the tissue that we could see in the uterine cervix, and in this case what we do is to complement it with a molecular biology test. If we find the papillomavirus, we have the possibility of identifying the genotype, which is the main cause of cancer.
For the time being, the new technology is applied at the Enlace Institute, where samples are also received from all over the country, which are also taken and processed free of charge.
The health personnel are trained so that they can make a correct sampling to make the molecular diagnosis, because nowadays we are talking about molecular biology for the diagnosis of the human papillomavirus. And how do we combine this information with the pap smear?
The state campaign against cervical cancer, in addition to free diagnosis, includes the vaccination of girls and boys from 12 to 15 years of age for prevention purposes and in the perspective of controlling the papillomavirus.
This campaign is called 90-70-90. It is related to what really matters to us women. The measures for us are that 90-70-90. It's as simple as that. Those are our measures. It's 90% of girls vaccinated against human papillomavirus between the ages of 10 and 15, 70% of women having a high-yield test at age 35 and again at age 45, and 90% of women with cervical disease receiving treatment.
Cervical cancer affects more than 13,000 women each year. The male is the transmitting agent of the disease, which is why they are included in the vaccination program. To facilitate the fight against this disease, the government authorized several years ago that women should have a working day for the sole purpose of going for the test to detect the disease.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Palestinian Resistance Commission warns that Israel has confiscated more than 52,000 hectares in the occupied West Bank in the midst of the commemoration of the 49th anniversary of the Land Day in Palestine. The organization denounced the illegal seizure of properties by Israel, in addition to the issuance of military orders for buffer zones around the settlements, while establishing 60 new security checkpoints. The agency detailed that through these buffer zones, the Tel Aviv regime is attempting to prevent residents from accessing their homes. In an attempt to evict them from their land, dozens of Palestinians are forced to evacuate the area to protect their lives. In Palestine, Israeli forces killed 6 people during an airstrike on the Abasan al-Kabira area east of Khan Yunis. Rescue teams worked to recover the victims trapped under the rubble, while the wounded were transferred to the emergency services. Since the resumption of the Israeli aggressions against the Gaza Strip on March 18th, more than 830 Palestinians have been reported dead and another 1,787 wounded. The resumption of hostilities aggravates the humanitarian crisis, which occurred after the prohibition of the entry of medical aid and supplies to the territory. The Israeli army attacked suburbs south of Beirut in a raid against a drone warehouse belonging to Hezbollah. The Israeli occupation issued an evacuation alert minutes before the attack in an area of 300 meters around the intended target. Following the attack, Lebanese authorities warned that Israel is carrying out a dangerous escalation in southern Lebanon while announcing the closure of schools in the targeted area. Tel Aviv justified its attacks as a response to alleged attacks carried out by the Lebanese resistance. However, senior Hezbollah commanders denied having participated in the alleged attacks against Israel.
We were working in the factory and they sent a warning saying they would bomb there first. We were next to a school and the children started coming out. They were terrified. They bombed the area 3 times.
People panicked, especially because there are 2 schools next to each other and the area is always crowded at that time, so people ran to get their children.
In Italy, organizations warn that agriculture and livestock farming are at a critical stage due to the drought affecting south of the country. Through a press release, the Italian Confederation of Direct Farmers said the damages due to the current water crisis in 4 regions south of the country amount to €9 million. They also warned that the situation could worsen and spread to other areas of the country, so they have urged for an increase in rainwater harvesting capacity to guarantee a supply for irrigation, livestock and hydroelectric power generation. In China, a fashion show focused on the traditional style of Guizhou province took place as part of the International Fashion Week in Beijing. On Friday, Miao and Dong youth from Qiandong paraded ethnic-style jewelry and embroidered costumes, capturing the attention of the public. At least 12 brands contributed to the cultural event, where local designers had the opportunity to connect with the ancient traditions of their ancestors while showcasing Oriental fashion and beauty through modern avant-garde designs. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.